Thank you so very much, Eric. And sorry about we had to be a little innovative. I'm not trying to offend everybody, but even you know, sometimes when bad things happen, there are some positive results. So I just happened to injure my middle finger. But what I find kind of uplifting about that is that if I am feeling a certain way about anyone, I can express myself without being overly offensive. So I just want to say that every now and then when something happens that you think is an inconvenience, might be a slight, sort of a positive rainbow at the end of, I should say at the end of that rainbow, that there's a pot of gold. Again, Eric, for reinforcing how truly connected and integrated all of us are when it comes to access to our communities. And for that fabulous introduction, thank you very much. I will introduce you to my mother, and if you would please reinforce that when you see her, because I don't think she appreciates me as much as she should. So thank you. But again, good morning, everyone. Let me begin by admitting to you that few opportunities please me more than the ones that allow me to connect with those who are working on the front lines to close the digital and opportunities divide. You are the ones who regularly hear from your local constituents about the real issues they face in getting robust connectivity to their doorsteps. You are the ones who deal with a myriad of deployment and adoption puzzles that still, unfortunately, stand in the way of too many who wish to realize the promise connectivity has to offer. And you are the source of some of the most innovative partnerships needed to fulfill those public interest dreams and social and economic benefits. Today, in the time that I have with you, I want to touch briefly on those challenges, the ones that I see facing state and localities, as well as address briefly a topic that is near and dear to my heart, affordable broadband. In just a couple of days, the FCC will vote on 2 items that propose to regulate municipalities and some of their core local management functions, including tower siting, rights of way, and franchises. The majority will make the case for regulating states and localities, I believe to the benefit of large broadband providers, but is willing to take action when it is unwilling to take actions when it comes to supporting individual consumers. I believe we see this most visibly in the talk of quote-unquote voluntary net neutrality commitments, rolling back privacy protections, creating an end around the national media ownership cap, and deregulating special access at the cost of consumer welfare. In economic speaks, the FCC is allowing businesses to externalize costs and internalize benefits. States and localities are okay to regulate, but broadband providers, I believe, are getting a hall pass. This worries me, and it should concern you when it comes to our shared goal of bringing affordable broadband to all Americans. The FCC has a statutory obligation or duty to ensure that all Americans, including low-income consumers and those living in rural and insular areas, have access to advanced telecommunications services. And for the record, our obligation to ensure that those low-income persons living in rural areas have service is equal. It's equal. Those who are low income, our obligation to serve them is equal to those that we serve and have an obligation to serve in those rural areas. In fact, the first principle of universal service laid out in Section 254 of the Telecommunications Act is quality service at affordable rates. This was true in 1996, and it remains true today. Indeed, according to a recent Pew study, 70% of the U.S. adults believe that local governments should be able to build their own broadband networks if commercial alternatives are either too expensive or provide poor service. The FCC has a potent tool to bring about affordable connectivity as well. For over 30 years, some of you know, The Federal Lifeline program has served as a bridge to empowerment, connectivity, and independence for many in our communities who are otherwise unable to afford or stay connected. Lifeline has been instrumental in helping to bridge and close the digital and opportunity divide, and has done so in a highly cost-efficient and targeted manner. While historically, Lifeline has supported voice, now, and it must continue to do so, it now supports broadband. Connectivity, I don't have to sell you, means empowerment, independence, and a means to address unmet needs. Qualifying consumers who need to get and keep a job or need expanded educational or healthcare opportunities can count on this program to bridge existing divides. Recognizing how necessary it is to remain connected and maintain the integrity of the program, the FCC undertook significant reforms to the Lifeline program last year, enabling consumers in some communities a choice, an actual choice, to use that $9.25 per month subsidy to provide a discount off of voice or broadband service. Our reforms have also streamlined the administrative process. It requires that a neutral third party verify and determine eligibility for the program, and it imposed minimum standards for service so we can get as much bang out of our buck as possible. Now, the program, I believe, was on a clear path to success. But what is not so clear today is if it will remain so. I will give you 3 reasons why I say that. First, the current FCC leadership has indicated that there is a likelihood that the Lifeline program, which is already on a budget, will be reworked, and that reworking will, I believe, will deny future participants after we reach a certain number of low-income individuals in the program, that they will not be able to enjoy the service offerings that they so desperately need. Second, the majority has made it quite clear that it will let companies provide free data and more sponsored data options to consumers in any form they see fit, except when it comes to the one program that seeks to empower poor people, and that is the Lifeline program. Low-income individuals would, by their proposal, have to pay what I call a poor tax in order to get free or a sponsored data plan. They will no longer be able to take advantage of some of the options that you have can take advantage of. And finally, while there is a significant discussion about regulatory streamlining and removing barriers to entry, and we should have these discussions, it is happening in every other conversation when it comes to what the FCC has oversight over. But the current majority feels comfortable in allowing companies that offer Lifeline service. They now are facing increasingly significant regulatory uncertainty and burdens, and this will increase barriers to entry when it comes to this program. So first, let me be clear that I agree that each and every one of our universal service programs should be on a budget, including the Lifeline program. And today, as I mentioned, all of our universal service programs are indeed on a budget. But Lifeline is not like any of our other programs. It is efficient, and it is means tested. And the means tested part of it is, I think we need to pay attention. If you don't qualify for Lifeline, you don't get Lifeline. So the money is not spent unless an individual or household is qualified. So if they can't afford broadband, if they can't afford connectivity, they will be eligible for this program. If you can afford it, the program, the budget will not be impacted. If you look at the Lifeline program and what it actually does, here's what never gets said in the stories about Lifeline. We can connect up to 27 low-income American households through the Lifeline program for every household that we currently connect through our rate of return high-cost program or Connect America program. 27 households versus 1. And the Lifeline program, as I said, only goes to the most needy. The same cannot be said, with all honesty, with our Connect America program, as important as it is. So obviously you can get from my message that I am opposed to putting any type of punitive cap on such an important tool that is needed for adoption, connectivity in our community. Punishing an efficient FCC subsidy program, to me, is unthinkable, should be undesirable, and will have the greatest negative impact on bringing connectivity to those in our communities who need it the most. I am unaware of any other means-tested subsidy program that ceases to provide benefits simply because a program manager picks some kind of arbitrary number of poor people that they think deserve a subsidy and turns away other poor people who could benefit. Mark my words, if we indeed institute such a punitive cap, we will soon be turning away many families that you are seeking to help, who are seeking more chances at educational opportunities, who are seeking more opportunities for their children to do homework without taking that long, exhausting trip to the library, who are seeking to provide themselves more connectivity when it comes to health care and other opportunities. This, for me, is a legacy that I hope we never realize, and I hope I have partners in the room who feel the same. Another policy change that seemingly is having traction among the leadership at the FCC is this poor tax that I mentioned to you. Now, let me be more specific here. Just a couple of months ago, the FCC chairman said that, and I quote, "The Federal Communications Commission will not focus on denying Americans free data. Instead, we will concentrate on encouraging innovative service offerings." Now, this is a very lofty goal that which I think, can all agree. But as I have said, there seems to be a special carve-out when it comes to low-income individuals. My question to you is, why are those who most needy left out of this promise? If a provider is willing to provide a sponsored data, a free program, that will allow them to keep in touch with their doctors, that will allow that Text to Babies program to continue without being punitive, that will allow interactions that people have not even thought of to be more innovative, to connecting with those who most need, or most in need. Why would we ask anybody to pay or be denied this privilege? So I say to you that a program that will address the needs of the most needy, that will allow them to use 911 service, that will allow them to really be a part of the current information age. I think we should make our voices loud and clear in saying that we should never foreclose on any opportunities that we have at our disposal to realize this from happening. The Lifeline program is one in which it bridges a significant opportunities divide. And I think we should look at this program when we talk about how can we uplift and support our communities. How can we provide services to tribal lands, to those who cannot afford a monthly charge. You and I are very fortunate. $9.25 per month means nothing to us. Some of you paid that for a couple of beers just last night. But $9.25 for a family who's most in need may make the difference between them eating or not on a given week. So what should the FCC do? I am not the type that just points out problems and complains about things. I am willing to work on and propose and suggest solutions. First, I believe that the agency must be consistent. We must not discriminate against low-income consumers when it comes to reducing regulatory uncertainty or barriers to entry for essential services. Now, the majority has made it very clear that they dislike regulatory uncertainty, so do I, and they want to get rid of certain barriers to market entry, and so do I. But we should never make any exception to the rule, and we should be laser focused when it comes to meeting the needs of our most vulnerable populations. By effectively closing the pipeline on Lifeline broadband provider designations, which, by the way, has just happened, it means that providers who have already invested millions of dollars to enter the program and were just beginning to provide services to consumers are now faced with a very terrible choice. Should they fire their staffs? Or should they go through what will be a very cumbersome legacy process for providing services, going state by state, territory by territory, some saying it might take them 10 to 15 years to be able to conserve communities, and that is not efficient, nor is it effective. But providing a very streamlined, unified, comprehensive program is one in which we should work towards. So any threat to a program that will help bridge the digital opportunities divide should be challenged. Any program that says a person barely making ends meet should, in essence, have skin in the game, that should be challenged. Taking logical, targeted, comprehensive steps to bridge the digital and opportunities divide should be the goal of each and every one of us in this room. We have seen the benefits in our communities from doing so. The projects on which you work on each and every day have brought hope and opportunities and much needed stimulation and infrastructure investment that the communities will pay and realize dividends for years and years to come. So let us continue to work together collaboratively to ensure that the opportunities that are literally at our doorsteps, that we have the ability to influence, that we continue to do so. This will always be a top priority for me, connecting and bridging communities. I know it's a top priority for you. It will never change for me. But what I hope will change for all of us is that once and for all, that at our next series of conferences, that we will be able to say to our constituents and to each other that we have done all that we can to bridge the affordability divide, to bridge the opportunities divide. That should remain a priority for all of us. And I thank you and look forward to having an interactive conversation with Deb and the rest of you as to just how we can do so. Thank you very much.